last month I read Piranesi, and it was like a perfect 10 read for me. It's one of my favorite books of the entire year so far, and it really kind of fucked up my TBR because I wanted more Susanna Clarke in my life, so I went out and got Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and I read that one this month. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And now, after having read both of them, you kind of want to ask, which one's better? Well, that's a really good question. And I could answer that question outright by just telling you the answer, but that's not entirely fair because comparing Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell to Piranesi is kind of like comparing apples and oranges. One is small and lightweight and can be read in a day. The other one is this massive doorstopper of a tome with enough footnotes to kill a horse. Not to mention the tone and the atmosphere and the mood and the style. They don't even feel like they're written by the same author at certain points, although they're very clearly written by the same author, if that makes any sense. And not to bury the lead too much here, I will have to say, with all of my personal preferences and everything taken into account, I would have to say that I personally did enjoy Piranesi more than Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. But this is a truly fabulous, wonderful, and amazing book, and I cannot recommend it enough. And of course, this video, we are here to talk about Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So this will essentially be a spoiler-free review. So don't worry if you haven't read it. Sit back, relax, and let's talk about this book. First things first, I'm on record as saying that I prefer a nice, tight, short book to a big doorstopper of a tome. If you had a nice 250-page, really tight story versus a 1,000-page story, I tend to like the shorter, tighter ones better. If you're going to have this big of a book, you better damn well justify its size and its length by giving me some real value for making me sit through this many pages. And it is in this exact department where my feelings on this book become a little conflicting, because at the end of the day, when I was done, when I shut the book and set it down, I'm finished with it, I 100% feel like it justified every single page and its length, and everything came full circle and it came home, and the themes and the characters and everything sat so well and clicked into place when I closed the book. So at the end of the day, I would say, yes, it 100% justified its existence and justified its length. But while I was reading the book, right in the middle of the reading experience, I would have probably said, no, I don't feel like it's justifying its existence. So it's a little tricky. Let me explain. I jumped into this book essentially blind. I loved Piranesi, so I ordered it and I started reading. I didn't know much of anything. And there is such a tone and a vibe and a charm to this, a whole atmosphere to reading it. This is an alternate history England back in the 18th century or 1800s, and you are just going to have to settle in. And there is a whole very strong, like I said, atmosphere and a charm. And it's about this man who's going to bring magic back to England. And it's about these magicians and these pretty much rich, cranky, cantankerous, upper class British posh people, and how they navigate the world and how they think and how they exist. And, it's just, there is a tone to this that is truly fabulous and wonderful, and the humor is just pitch perfect for the world and the world building and the characters and that tone that I keep talking about. And I keep saying it because that tone is going to have to carry you through this book for the most part, from basically beginning to end, because she's going to settle in, and she's going to settle into the world, and she's going to start developing characters, she's going to start introducing characters, and she's going to start doing some world building and just building it out one piece at a time, one character at a time, one block at a time, and it's going to take a very long time. So if you're not settled into the tone and the atmosphere and that mood and that sense of humor, then you might not be here for a good time. You might not enjoy this book and the amounts of time that you're going to have to spend with it, because it is very long, and it is very, just like I said, she settles right in and she's not in a hurry to get to the end. We're doing so much world building in this that we don't meet Jonathan Strange until the end of book 1, and there's 3 books in this. So basically the first third, like 300 damn pages of this book, you don't even meet Jonathan Strange. And he's the first name on the book. Actually, he's the first name on the book for kind of a reason, because he basically, once he enters the story, he becomes the driving force of the entire book. Norrell kind of takes a back seat for the remainder of the book, and Jonathan Strange really is the driving force of this book. And we don't meet him for like 300 pages. It's wild. But that's the amount of just world building and sheer, like I said, settle in and just kind of go with it. It's an unusual type of storytelling, and it's also just a very unconventional way of telling the story, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because it gives you a richness and a vividness and a depth to the world and the world building, but at the same time it goes on for a very long time. And at about the end of book 1, right about the time Jonathan's coming into the story, I started to feel like, yeah, this is going on for so long, I'm afraid the book might just overstay its welcome in general. Then about the end of book 2, I started to be convinced that it was overstaying its welcome. I thought, no, I think it's a little overlong. It's a little padded. It's drawn out. I don't think this book needed to be this long. And I thought I was going to come into this review and make this video, and I thought I was at the end of the day going to say, this book should have been 200 pages shorter, and it would have been a much better experience. By the time I finished it, don't think that's the case. But it's kind of hard to say, and I'm a little bit conflicted because while I was reading it, I was very strongly feeling like this is too long. But I must say, when it ended, when it wrapped up the story, when it brought everything home to its conclusion, and the themes were paid off so satisfactorily, the characters came home, everything about the end of this book was so utterly fulfilling and satisfying. The way it all comes home, all the way down to some of the last lines in the book, was just, they hit on such a deeply emotional level and they resonated so perfectly. It's so hard to explain just how much I loved the end of the book and how satisfying it was, both for the characters, the character beats, and the way that ended, thematically, the themes that you're following throughout the book. It was so good. It's hard to imagine that the ending and those ending beats would have hit as hard as they did if the book didn't have all of the time that it had taken to truly build and delve deep into all of the things that it was trying to do. So at the end of the day, even though while I was reading it, it felt like it was too long, at the end, I don't know how it would have had that impact if it wasn't as long as it was. So do with that information what you will. But it's one of those books where a lot of times I'll be like, this should have been shorter. I don't know how this could have been. This was just, I'll probably just have to reread it one day to see exactly where I land on the too long spectrum, because at the end of the day, right now, I was satisfied with it, and I think it justified its existence. But ultimately, the writing in this is brilliant. The prose is brilliant. The characters are brilliant. Everything about this is so wonderfully good. And then Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell are some of the most fun, fascinating, entertaining, charming characters that you just really like to be around. Sometimes you hate to be around, especially Mr. Norrell. And it's just, they're so fascinating. Two halves of a single idea moving forward into the future. Both of them have half of what they need in order to bring magic back, and they're both doing half of it right and half of it wrong, and they're so different in personalities that they're just perfect for each other, the best perfect friends, but at the same time they're so different from each other they can't stand each other, and they can't stand to be around each other. And it's just everything about the storytelling complements the characters complement the storytelling, the characters complement each other, and it all fits together like this magical little puzzle that you just love to read and go through and follow. And there's drama and there's tension and there's stakes, but it's not too overdone, it's not too over played, the drama. It's at times it's kind of slows down. Like I said, goes on for a long time. Sometimes it slows down. You're like, what is the drama at this point in time? But then there are real stakes and there is real tension, and there is just real tension between the two main characters, and just the fact of, can they even get along? It's just such a good, wonderful, and satisfying experience. Wonderful book. Susanna Clarke is great. No matter what she chooses to do, I am just utterly satisfied with her books, her stories, and her storytelling. I cannot give this a perfect 10 like I did to Piranesi, just because there was a very large lull in the middle where I was fighting with my own self as to whether or not I liked the book and how engaged and how invested I was with it. And I feel like if it was a perfect book, I would not have had that struggle. But I am going to go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10 because it was damn close. And man, that ending, just how fulfilled I personally felt at the end of the book was amazing. So 9 out of 10. I loved it. What did you think of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell? Have you read it? If not, I highly recommend that you do. As always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.